Greetings everyone, here we are with another delightful video from me to you through the power of the internet and the YouTube video sharing platform. And this is me opening up my second printing Dungeons and Dragons white box from TSR Rules. This box is the second printing because numerous other details, such as it still contains hobbits in it, and it is the white box. So therefore, the first printing was a wood grain box, which I think was limited to like 2,000 boxes, and I believe was sold originally at a convention in April of 2073. I can't remember the name of the convention it was sold at. And then this, the second printing, was released on somewhere in January of 1974, if I remember correctly. So let's go ahead. It is smaller than a typical starter set of modern day era. By the way, Outdoor Survival is an essential game to be played with the white box, as many mechanics out of this box is crucial to various mechanics in this game. And you also need chainmail, which I did a video earlier and I released. So go ahead and check that out after you're done with this. But essentially, Dungeons and Dragons is a homebrew mod to chainmail, and it requires also, for optimal play, Outdoor Adventures from Avalon Hill. So I probably will unbox this Outdoor Adventures right around the 750 subscriber mark on my channel. It's in plastic wrap. I do believe that the plastic wrap is not original to it. It has been later added on. So here we go. I'm going to keep my videos shorter this week, as my internet router is no longer working properly, and I have to keep these short so I can upload them quick off my phone, and or very quickly at work between customers. So we have a set of books in here. This is a untreated box. Being as such, these untreated boxes tend to wear or gain moisture very easily. And as you can see, that there is some damage in the various corners of the box at various points. However, considering its age, it's actually held up pretty well. I'm going to set this back here. It stands beautifully, by the way. It knows how to present. But we have the first book, which is Men and Magic, Volume 1 of the 3 booklets for Dungeons and Dragons. Rules for Fantastic Medieval War Games Campaigns, playable with paper, pencil, and miniature figures, by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. And then we have the second book, which is Monsters and Treasure, Volume 2 of the 3 booklets of Dungeons and Dragons Rules for Fantastic Medieval War Games Campaigns, playable with paper and pencil and miniature figures. Oh my god, that's so many ands in there. And it states it's published by Tactical Study Rules. And then we have the third booklet, which is The Underground, the Wilderness Adventures, Volume 3 of the 3 booklets for Dungeons and Dragons, Rules for Fantastic Medieval War Games, Campaigns, playable with paper and pencil and miniature figures, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. And then we also have Dungeons and Dragons reference sheets, which also came with the book box itself. These are a bunch of loose sheets that separate out very easily for quick references. You can lay them out very easily to quickly reference various important things, such as magic and treasure and various other fun stuff like that. Quick over on to the very first book. There will be another video of this that will cover each booklet a little more closely. This booklet has this really nice outer cover that has a texture to it. As you can see, the texture in it a little bit. It is a fairly thick quality book. It is denoted as the copyright here is 1974 Tactical Study Rules. It's dedicated to all the fantasy wargamers who have enthusiastically played and expanded upon the chainmail fantasy rules. With thanks and gratitude, here is something better. Special thanks to the Midwest Military Simulation Association, the Great Lakes, the Lake Geneva Tactical Studies Association, Rob Kuntz, and Tom Krogan in memoriam, because he died pretty close to this being released. We have the nice little index right here, such as the introduction, scope, equipment, preparations for the campaign, characters, character alignment, including monsters, determining of the abilities, language, non-playable characters, basic equipment and costs, encumbrance, weights and equivalents, levels and numbers of experience points necessary to attain them, statistics regarding classes, alternative combat system, saving throw matrix, spell table, magic users, clerics, explanation of spells, magical research, and book of spells. We have the foreword, which was written by E. Gary Gygax, Senior, Tactical Studies Rules Editor, of November 1st, 1973, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And then we go into the introduction. We have a quick overview of what you need for your game, including the chainmail booklet and preparations for the game. Nowhere really does say that this is the second printing of the book. The only way I could figure that out is based on what's included in it, such as when we go over here, we get to this spot right here. It says Hobbits, which was later stricken out due to a lawsuit with the Tolkien estate. And then we have all the little matrices, pricing of everything. Just note that your weight encumbrance was based on gold amount that you could carry and so forth. So as you can see, there's a bunch of really nice little tables here. Once you have read through chainmail and got a gist, this all makes sense. This is a quick list of your spells right here. I quickly page through. And then there's some artwork here. This is a goblin, which weirdly enough doesn't really look like a goblin. It looks more like a dwarf and so forth. And then page past a few more pages. And we got an elf, which doesn't really look like an elf. A lot of the artwork in the early Dungeons and Dragons was very sketchy, as it was drawn by people who did not have any artistic talent whatsoever. I had an artistic talent, and then my wrist went bad. And then 2 years of college art credits basically became worthless. So there you go. That's all the products that were released around the time of early Dungeons and Dragons. Some of these games, you can, if you were to hunt around very carefully, you can find them, but they usually sell for $100 for an old box set of Panzer Warfare or Tactics, or going on upwards from there. So there you go. So there's a lot of fun products. Gary Gygax and his team were very prolific in outputting a lot of products. However, much like Free League Publishing, a lot of it doesn't get really far in fandom. We have the Monsters and Treasures booklet, and this book largely lists out all the various monsters in the system and a good bit of information about them, what kind of treasures you can get out of them, and so forth, and how to read their stats, the special characters. However, it is important to note that in the fantasy rules, Within chainmail, there is movement speeds for various monsters and few other things that you need to combine with this book. This is a very common problem with original Dungeons and Dragons, BX Dungeons and Dragons, and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, where a lot of times there'll be a book that releases that contains a whole bunch of information. However, you do not get all the key information in that book. And therefore, if you want something more or more options around that thing, you have to go buy a second book and a third book. And you kind of go from there. We happen to see here all the different dragons right here. See, that's how it's reduced down. You got the type of weapon, the range, shape, hit dice for the dragon, and talking and sleeping percentages for the dragon. We have special characteristics here, a really badly drawn Balrog, and so forth. A little advice on sea monsters and purple worms, and a Pegasus, and a few other fun stuff. A few other nice tables here and there for magic items. A really badly drawn face of a wolf man, and so forth. By the way, even though that's badly drawn, that's still a pretty good job of a negative, a black, and then remove white for detail, and so forth. And then our third book is Underworld and Wilderness Adventures. Please note that it was very common for many people in classic D&D. This is the opening page. One of those rare times where they actually put nice artwork on the inside of the cover. I approve of that entirely. We have ourselves a Hydra here, with a little denotation of that is indeed a Hydra right here, right above my thumb. A quick index of what's in the book, as well as a good general overview of the layers of a dungeon and the levels in relationship to the levels of difficulty for players. You put stronger monsters to the bottom and you put weaker monsters to the top. So the players are, when they're weak, they run into the weak monsters and beat them up and then move down, and they find treasure and they continue to get stronger as they go downward. Another example of a map shown here of the dungeon, which is essentially the underworld. This is a basilisk, explaining various rules, example of play in the system, and a whole bunch more stuff. There's a lot of different artwork in here, as well as tables for various characteristics, and a nice little drawing of a castle and sections. Man-at-arms table where you want to hire people and stuff like that. Missile fire rules, and so much more. And flip to the back, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I just skipped over. And then we have ourselves a nice little drawing of I do believe that's a wizard, a series of elementals, as well as looks to be a wizard. And then we have a fighter over here with fight on right next to him. So there you go. And then the last of all is the reference sheets. The reference sheets are really simple. As I said before, they're essentially nothing but a series of tables with little bits of referees' advice on various mechanics. This is the precursor of the Game Master or Dungeon Master screen, without being a effective Dungeon Master screen whatsoever, because it's way too small. But as I said before, it all separates out into different sheets, so you can easily compare it from different pages to different pages. If you are a true fan, if you're a hardcore fan of Dungeons and Dragons and want to learn more of the history of this, you can get a free version of this. I mean, I'm not joking. A free version of original Dungeons and Dragons by going looking up the lawsuit between Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, and downloading the PDF that contains all the evidence between the lawsuit between them, and it contains the complete version of the original version of Dungeons and Dragons, first printing. No sweats about it. You can typically find this box set online for $200 to $400 in like $200 in this kind of condition. I happen to have bought this box for $79.59. It just happens to be before Dungeons & Dragons became big with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition many, many years ago. This was before Critical Role was even a thing. So I got into buying all this stuff when it was dirt cheap, where it was only really the hardcore people who really wanted to have a copy of it, and most likely did have a copy already. So yeah, I bought this for $79. And this is literally the second printing. These are quite rare in themselves. So it's hard to rate these. This is in the territory of like a 3-star as a 3 or a 2.5 star system. Because the problem is when you're in a store back in the 1970s, I have to wipe my nose because my nose gets itchy. If you're back in the 1975 and you're in the store and you see this box and you say, hey, I'm interested in that, and I go buy it and go home, and then there's like incomplete rules for a game system and it's not really good or really well put together an explanation, you're missing pieces to the system, that's a 2.5 to 2-star situation right there. It's still playable. You can piece enough together and like homebrew bits and pieces into it. But if you knew that you needed chainmail to play it at the basic level, then you have something. If this was included with this would be a 3 or a 3-star situation right here, because it's still rough to read and play, but all the stuff is there for how to play it. But how to play it to the optimal level, you would then also need outdoor survival. So there you go. So that was the case. This is a very apt analogy for the origin of tabletop role-playing games, that they were a multiple things coming together. There was no exact pure version of it, unsullied of corruption. It was just a bunch of different pieces coming together, merging into one thing, and then developing forth from there or into what's called a tabletop role-playing game that's known today. So those goofy Bro SR people are literally in secret origin cult. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment below what you're more interested in. If you want videos that are deeper dives into the system, showcasing various stuff or various other things, I can tell you or point you in the direction of where people who have already made stuff on this topic in greater detail. But also, even if it's like Star Trek Adventure 2nd Edition or Star Frontiers or Call of Cthulhu or Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I'm subscribed to well over 600 different YouTube channels. You can go down to the bottom of the homepage and you can find like 500 YouTube channels covering the tabletop role-playing game spectrum. Pretty much mostly tabletop role-playing games, some war games, and some news channels that commonly cover a lot of stuff in tabletop role-playing games, because I try to keep up to date as much as possible. And you gotta watch as many different people, regardless of if they're far left or far right or libertarian or all the way up into the authoritarian spectrum. I subscribe to a lot of different people. It's rare for me to unsubscribe to someone unless they literally start wasting my time with extreme amounts of clickbait, and then they fail to stick inside their box. I don't want to watch a video that's about Dungeons and Dragons and find out it's about a video game. Or I do play video games. You can see up here I have a very nice collection of Nintendo games. as I was a big fan of Nintendo way back in the day, even up into now. But I don't want to watch a video game video on my tabletop role playing game channel. I would switch over to my video gaming channel and watch video games on that. So, but even then, I don't like it when people start mixing their different categories on channels too much. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful week, and a magnificent month. And see you next time. Ciao.